Welcome, everyone. This is kind of our first webinar of Intro to Esports. I'm not going to do too much of an introduction, simply because Michael can kind of share a little bit more about kind of his story and his journey into esports. You might even have to give us a definition of what is esports too on that. But so for those of you who are joining us in the chat, so if you're interested and there's a question, don't feel that you have to wait till the end. Feel free to put in the chat, and either Michael, you can wait till the end and answer any questions, or you can stop and pause it and all that. So you have some pretty big freedoms in that. But we're excited that you're local. You're just right out here on Maze, and also have some good experiences. So we have a lot of people who are interested and they know of esports, but they couldn't tell you, outside of just playing video games, what does that actually mean? So, Michael, take it away. And
Awesome.
When you're ready, you can share your screen and all of that, but go for it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kyle. It's this is fun. I love doing this. This is the best part of what I do anymore. Like when I left teaching, that's the part I miss, is just talking to people and helping kids and everything. So this was great. Yeah, I am going to go ahead and share, and I may not catch all the questions in chat, but if you just want to go, hey, I have a question or something, feel free. I'm perfectly fine with that. So whatever works for you. So you all see my screen there? Okay, awesome. All right, well, Kyle already kind of gave my introduction. I do, one thing you'll find about all esports players is they typically have a gamer tag. Mine is Mr. Mister, MR Mister. Mike Russell Mister is how that works. So it just kind of worked out that way. I was fortunate to, I guess, have those initials. So it was great when you're a teacher and that's your gamer tag. So it worked out well for me. So a little bit of background on myself. I am a former alternative school educator. I was an esports director and a coach. The difference being is a director would be like the athletic director for a program, and the coach would be coaching like a specific game in esports. So we'll get more into kind of like the nuances of those later in the presentation, but it'll make a lot of sense once I give you some kind of tangential things that you can kind of relate to, and it'll make more sense to kind of get your head wrapped around what exactly I'm talking about. So I am an author of 6 books, co-author. I have an excellent co-writer and a couple other writers that work with me of a product called Gaming Concepts that we actually developed in Mays, Kansas here. And yeah, it's been a fun ride. I'll get into that a little bit more too. I've been a lifelong gamer. I've been playing since I was 8. You can probably tell by my picture here. Why is my mom taking a picture of me like that? I have no idea. It must have mattered in the 1980s that you had that picture. For those of you who don't know, that is an Atari 2600 in about a 120 pixelated frame. So you can't tell what it is, but that's what that is. That's kind of the original, at least for me, gaming system. Predates Nintendo and all the ones that came after that. So that's your kind of your Pac-Man original and all those fun games. So I am also currently a Maze School board member. So feel free to stop by the board meeting sometime and say hi. I'm there second Monday of every month. So so the brief origin story, and I'll make this pretty brief because it can be a long story, but I'll do the abridged version. So I started in education in 2015. I had a passion for kids, also had a passion for gaming, thought there was something we could do to kind of marry those two things together. So fortunately, the person that hired me, Dr. Christy Custer, who is also one of my co-writers, one of our co-writers and co-creators of this curriculum, hired me and said, hey, this is great, go give it a shot. So she allowed me to kind of go out and figure out what to do with esports and how to bring that into schools. And so I went out, raised money to build our lab. I'll have a picture of that here later. Maze was very, very helpful in that as well. Helped me with some funding and things like that too. So we were able to get a lab up and running within a year. and that was in 2016. So that, in the esports world, I'm like 100 years old. That's a long time in esports. It's kind of the origin point of a lot of those things. So while I was there, we ended up developing the curriculum that I mentioned before. Microsoft found out that we had developed this. They put it on their website, and it was downloaded 400,000 times in 40 countries. Remember, we're from Mays, Kansas. This is a small place, and nobody knows who we are. But when Microsoft calls you and says, "Hey, we found out you have this thing," it's kind of exciting. So we of course did not charge for that. That was something that was out there for free to everybody. It was a 147 page, curriculum that anybody could use. And, it was always fun to get those messages from Kenya and Bangladesh and Australia, and everybody's like, "Hey, we're using this and it's great," and so that's kind of where my passion comes in, is just helping kids and helping people get programs started. And I would imagine over the years, myself and Christy we've probably helped start 500 programs, esports programs across the United States and around the world. So, and so to kind of jump in, this probably won't be a surprise to anybody. 227 million people play video games. That's just in the United States. In the world, it would be closer to 3 billion. 97% of teens play some sort of video game. Now we have to put a little bit of qualifiers on those because they don't all play the same game, obviously. And not every game that's played is an e-sport. So they're all competitive. So we don't say everybody competes in an e-sport, or 97% of kids compete in an e-sport. It is, they play a video game. And we'll get into more detail on how esports and video game play and Scholastic esports and all that stuff is different here in a second. So basically everything started as grassroots initially. It was just kind of people like me and some other folks in Wichita that in Kansas City and different pockets of the United States that started programs and just wanted to get things going. Typically esports, when you're talking about esports, you're talking about competitive gaming after school or at your local church program, however you want to identify that. But it's always going to be a competitive gaming experience. So esports is electronic sports. I don't know who came up with that name. We just ran with it. That's what we go with. So when you think about esports, you're thinking about competition. That should be always what your frame of mind is like, these kids are competing. There's, there might be some kind of prizing or some kind of scholarship or something available at the end, but it's a tournament structure. They're competing to be the best in whatever region, state, country, you name it. They have world competitions and everything, just like they do for, the Super Bowl and baseball and everything else. So that's the frame of mind you need to be in. So typically in the high school and middle school space, there's companies who run these tournaments in the high schools. There's a couple listed here: High School Esports League, Play Versus. There's many others, and basically you join their league, and then they manage the tournament piece for you. So your school would sign up, your kids would sign up. It would match you against another school, and then you would compete, and then you go on and through the bracket, and then there's usually some kind of state, city, or a national champion crowned by each different entity. And how that's done is kind of up to the tournament provider. So right now there's really not a state structure for competing in esports because it's so nuanced and it's very difficult to figure out for schools how to do that. And I can kind of explain that here in a second too. So something that may be of a surprise to a lot of people is there are a lot of schools, colleges and universities, that offer scholarships. Last count I had was 800 schools, colleges and universities. Also 2-year junior colleges offer scholarships. About 30% of those scholarships go unclaimed. So they have them sitting there, but then they don't know how to recruit kids, and kids don't apply to be on their teams. So if you're looking for opportunities and you think, your daughter or son has a knack for this or wants to be a part of this, I would definitely encourage you to look around. I've listed a couple sites here. that you can go to and you can look through and see what scholarships are available. And some of the sites even allow you to apply for scholarships directly to the school. And don't think that you have to be like, LeBron James of esports to get a scholarship. That's not how this works typically right now. Schools are trying to build their programs, so you don't necessarily have to be like great. You need to be very good, but you don't have to be great at this point. So, and just depends on the game and everything too. So, and what I mostly work on anymore is what we call scholastic gaming or esports. We call it scholastic gaming typically, but that is where we teach classes for credit. So that's what I do. I design, along with my co-writers, I design courses that are taught for classes for credit. So we, for example, 80% of kids want to be streamers. They want to be the next YouTube guy, Mr. Beast, you name it, right? Mr. Beast is actually from Derby. I did not know that until recently. So, so if you know that name, if you don't, look it up because he's doing very well on YouTube. They want to be streamers, and what we have designed is a class that is taught for credit, but it's aligned to the speaking and listening standards, so kids take it instead of speech. So they can do their speech credit without having to, do the awkward, I want to get in front of everybody, and prepare a speech and talk about my family and that kind of stuff. They're much more comfortable in front of a microphone and a camera. So I would, that's the part of the world I live in. Obviously, I came from the tournament world and I have a lot of knowledge on esports, but what I work on primarily now is the curriculum side. So this is where you're going to get a lot of information from, figuring, how all esports work. So what is esports? Like I said, it's competitive esports. Where it gets a little complicated is it's not just one sport. It's more like a track or a track event. So you might have a head coach for track, but you're going to have 200-meter dash and hurdles and, javelin and discus and shot put and all those things. It's the same thing with esports. You can have a director, which is a role, but then you also have, a Rocket League team, and you have a Valorant team, and you have a Fortnite team, or multiples of those teams. So that's kind of the difference. Is you're trying to you're as a director, you're kind of trying to make sure the kids show up on time and do all the things, and then the coach is really like getting granular on like, how are we going to be really good at Rocket League? How are we going to be really good at Valorant? So that's kind of the difference there. I think, this is kind of a presentation I do for schools, but when you're starting these programs, I would never start with more than like 2 games or 3 games because you're going to get overwhelmed pretty quickly. You don't want to start out and be like, hey, let's do 7 games and let every kid play, that game, because you're going to have a lot of scheduling conflicts and you're going to have kids that overlap. So I always say limit it to 2 to 3 games, knowing that you might have 4 or 5 rosters for each game. So I've listed kind of some of the typical roster sizes. Chess is very competitive. It is one of our highest played esports after school in our particular league. We have a lot of kids who play chess. I think the Queen's Gambit on Netflix kind of propelled that forward because it wasn't nearly as high as enrollment, but once that came out, we had a lot of kids, and schools do recruit for that. So, and I think it's just an easier transition for parents and teachers. It's like, oh, chess, that makes sense to me because it's deemed as educational, right? So, Hearthstone, which is a card game, a digital card game, and then Rocket League is 3 players, so you have 2 or 3 players. And Rocket League is basically soccer, with soccer with cars, right? So three players on each team, back and forth on the court. Whoever 5-minute course, 5-minute periods, runs pretty fast. A match probably takes 30 minutes on that. So, and then you've got 5-player games like League of Legends, which I think the grand champion last year won $1.7 million in League of Legends. And then Overwatch 2 is another one. Valorant's another one. These are all competitive, but they're 5-player teams, and they're very specialized roles on those games. So, you might have somebody who deals damage, but then you have healers and tanks, and it gets, there's a lot more moving parts to those types of games and a lot more strategy involved. So you have to kind of, your coach has to be pretty well versed in a lot of different things on that one. So, you always want to, and I think Kyle's done a great job, he's informing the parents that they always have questions and you want to make sure they know what's going on. So, I think, having these kinds of informational meetings is great, especially if you have resources available to you that, I've done this and built programs. It's a nice way to outreach to the community and keep parents advised. The thing I will say about parents that I would encourage, and I don't know if any of you do this, but I would definitely encourage you to either play with your kids on the video games or at least be down there with them on occasion. It probably wouldn't hurt to check in on them, and I think most kids would probably enjoy that. I know they get to an age. I have, my kids are in their 20s, mid to late 20s, because I'm getting up there. But I think they enjoy it when you play with them. I still play Mario Kart with my daughter. She's 25 years old. So, I mean, and she's in Manhattan, so we get on Switch and we play. So I think there's a connection there, and I think it shows that you're taking an interest in what they're interested in. And so don't be afraid to go down there and hang out with, or go in their room and hang out with them, or in the living room and hang out and watch them play, or maybe play along with them. So I think I think it's a great bonding experience. And I think sometimes time gets in the way and you get intimidated by it, but I think it's definitely worthwhile. So, um, practicing, I mean, I treated it just like when I was coaching, I treated it just like every other sport. We do about an hour to an hour and a half every night. When the season was going on, a season would run about 8 to 10 weeks. And then we would have competitions one night. So we always stayed and practiced. We had a lot of practice, and it's not just practicing the mechanics of the game, but also the communication. Like I need to tell who's going to be chatting, and like, who's going to be calling out everything and where we're going and what we're doing. So, those communication skills through esports are very important. And I think it's a great opportunity to get them to communicate and play in person and talk to each other, as opposed to, over the internet, which was how most esports are done. But we always competed in the same spot together so that our kids could see each other and I could hear them. And so I always encourage that. So, um, for competition dates, times, that's going to vary by, your provider. Um, Typically you play one match a week, uh, and a match can be anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. The thing that you kind of have to watch, different tournaments have different rules. So, and some publishers, so a publisher would be like the person who makes the game. So, Riot Games or Blizzard Entertainment or, Epic Games. These are all the people who make the games that your kids are playing, Fortnite, things like that. So, but when you there's a competition, they all have their own rules, and you need to make sure you partner with someone or you read all the rules. And believe me, there is a lot of rules on how you can run these tournaments and who can participate, and the amount of prizing you can give away. So you want to make sure you don't violate those, because the publishers get kind of angry with you when that happens. So, um, the coaches can be anybody from, somebody who's just passionate about gaming to, someone who's just passionate about kids and wants to help their kids get off the ground and get, make something successful and try something new. So, um, I've talked to a lot of people, and really one of the best analogies I have is band. And I can say this because my daughter was in the band for many years, and even played at the college level. And I always think about, like, why do we want our kids to do competitive esports or gaming in school? And we got that question so many times. And then our superintendent at the time actually came up with this analogy. He's like, it's like band, right? It's like in band, what do you actually learn in band? I know band kids are your most successful kids in school. That's like the number one metric. If they're in the band, they're going to be successful, right? Why are they successful? It's not because they learned how to do algebra and write everything properly. They learned how to read another language, right? Because they learned music, learned how to work together and march together, and play offset key, do all the things that you do in the band. Competitive esports is the same thing. Like, they're doing the exact same things. They're learning, but they're also learning digital citizenship and, how to act online and how to respond to, people bullying people and all those things too. So I think there's a lot to be learned from esports, not to mention all the mechanical skills and the proficiency in typing and all of those things if they're a keyboard gamer, if they're a PC gamer. So these are some of the more popular game titles that we have. These fluctuate and can fluctuate and change, about every 6 months. This is just a kind of a list of things that I keep an eye on. Obviously some games not appropriate for school or a church setting. Probably not even a home setting in some cases. If you're watching your kid, you'll know what I'm talking about. So the big one on here that stands out is Call of Duty for age limits. Call of Duty, we do not even offer Call of Duty in our league because it's now been raised to 18 and up. So we don't even offer that as a competitive title. So I would say if your kids are playing Call of Duty, you might want to check in on them every once in a while because I know what's going on behind the headset. So it can be a pretty brutal and toxic game, and so just maybe keep an eye on them. But for middle school, high school, some appropriate titles would be like Overwatch, Fortnite's fine, League of Legends, Super Smash is very popular, Rocket League is very popular, chess, as I mentioned. So, there's a large assortment here, but there's a few titles here that I would definitely, Call of Duty being the big one that I would stay away from. Minecraft, lots of Minecraft. There's different modes of Minecraft that you can do. I think most kids have probably had an experience with Minecraft, and it's a great title. It allows you to do a lot of cool things, and we run some particular modes in that. So um, this is the lab that I was able to put money together for to get. I only had to raise money to get the PCs, the desks, and the chairs um, were provided by my school, by the district. And then the posters and everything are my posters I accumulated from going to multiple conventions, BlizzCons. They're all signed by developers, people who work on that. So, and people who work in the industry. So, I mean, I had, we'll talk a little bit about this in a second, but like graphic artists and so it's not just coding and playing when you're talking about esports and careers, right? There's a lot of careers that go into esports. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But I always like to show that off because it's kind of like that was my cool thing that I did, right? So why do we do this? So we did a study, commissioned a study, and found these are just some kind of stats that we found from that study, and I have some other information in here too, and more info I can share, but. We did a study, and 100% of the kids who participated in the esports program shared that they interacted with someone that they never would have interacted with before. And why is that important? Well, I mean, you're gonna, you're having different kids from different cultures interact, right? So, like, one of my favorite stories is the football quarterback. Was hanging out with I'm going to say the nerdy kid, and I can say that because I was the nerdy kid. They can, those kids are hanging out, and the football player is actually asking the nerdy kid, how do I get better at this game so I can be really good at it, right? So those kids are now hanging out in the hallways and talking, and so they're bridging a lot of different gaps there. So it's important to have that extra peer interaction and make new friends, right? So 80% of the kids shared that they, had increased classroom participation in their classes because they felt like they were now a part of the school, they felt like they had a thing to do, right? Kids do their extracurricular activities. That's probably why 95% of kids go to school, right? I get to see my friends and I get to play football or basketball or drama or debate or whatever my thing is, band. Now they have their thing. So now they have new friends. And they have a reason to be there, and it feels like it makes them feel like they want to achieve and do a little bit better in school. So 90% of the kids shared they'd never participated in any extracurricular activity before esports. So these are kids, in many cases, that were not doing anything. they were just like, I go to school, I come home, or maybe I don't go to school, is the thing. Because we also know their attendance increases a lot when they have something to participate in. So, and then the other fun stat I like to throw in here, the kids, only 70% of the kids shared that they had fun in the esports stuff. The reason that is kind of a weird stat is because we didn't ask them if they had fun. They just shared that organically in other answers. So I'm sure if we had asked them specifically if they had fun, they would all probably say yes. But so I always like to throw that in there. And then these are some character traits listed here that um, kids work on when they're doing esports or scholastic gaming. The big one here I'll point out is perseverance. Dr. Randy Watson, who is the Commissioner of Education in Kansas, did a slideshow for us about 4 years ago now, probably. But the number one requested trait by employers is perseverance in Kansas. That they're like, I need people who will show up to work, but also won't just quit when when they had adversity, right? What's great about that is video games are the best place in the world to learn perseverance, because you can keep trying something over and over and over again until you get it right. You'll fail, and kids will do it. They'll fail and fail and fail and fail. And then when they finally figure it out, they're so excited and they learn perseverance. It's really difficult to teach perseverance because it requires failure. And, if you fail in traditional school, you get a bad grade, it's hard to make that up. You don't get to repeat it, right? So I think, video games and learning music and things like that give these kids an opportunity to fail. Believe me, my ears hurt a lot when my daughter started in the band, right? She was learning how to play the flute. My ears did not enjoy that the first couple of years. Later, it got much better. So, but she got to practice. So, these are just some attendance stats for kids who participated in. Now, this is relating to the class itself, the courses. So kids, their improvements in their attendance over the course of a school year compared to their peers. So kids who were in the courses increased their attendance by 7.4% the first year and 7.7% the next year. And we averaged at the alternative school, our goal was about 85%. We averaged a 96% attendance in that class. So the kids were coming to school because they felt like they belonged there. So pretty big stat. These are, like I mentioned before, a lot of the careers that are available to kids who participate in esports or scholastic gaming programs. As you can see, a lot of the careers, not very many of them have to do with actually playing the video games. Most of them have to do with things either developing the games. Esports companies need HR managers and finance people and all the same people that every other business needs to run. And those all translate, so you can do event production and you can also be a videographer, you could be manage social media. I mean, these are all roles that we have at our company, and it's all stuff that kids have learned through gaming or being involved in gaming or gaming programs. So, even we have a lot of schools who teach, it's kind of weird, but they teach this as a PE credit where they mix the physical exercise with some gameplay. So it's kind of a pioneering thing, but there's a lot of careers that are available to your kids, and especially if they're interested in gaming and they want to do something, they might want to look at some of these careers and be like, oh man, I really do like sales, and I want to do that for a living, and if I can go out and sell video games or sell video game tangent products, that's really nice, right? So wanted to talk about, we get asked a lot about women in esports and kind of, it does appear to be a mostly male dominated sport. And in the competitive piece, that is absolutely true right now. I would say it's very rare to find a professional female athlete in esports. That is changing. We're starting to see a lot more women get into those types of roles, but it's just been a slow process. I will say when I started this in 2016, I had two females on my esports program in my esports program. By the time I left, so it was about 2 out of 15 kids. By the time I left, it was 7 out of 15 kids were female. So we're seeing that we were seeing that swing. It's just taking time for it to work throughout the whole, you know, system from high school to college to professional. So these are some great, fantastic role models for women who want to go into esports. I mentioned Dr. Custer before. Obviously, she's been very crucial to the success of this for me. She hired me, and we worked on these books together, and we still work together. So, you know, she has a great wealth of knowledge on esports, great mentor. So if you have, uh, you know, kids, but particularly females or women that are interested in this and have questions, she would be 100% willing to help them. Heidi Alvin also worked. I worked with her, still work with her. You can see her resume there. I mean, Milken Award winner, which is a very prestigious, like, I mean, very few people get that award in education. And then she's also a Presidential Math and Science Award winner, which is even more rare than the Milken winner. So, um, you know, she's a gamer. She likes to play her games and walk on her treadmill. So she's great. She works with me. Brittany, met her in Florida at a conference. Hard worker. Just graduated. I keep track. You know, we keep in touch on LinkedIn. She went to Full Sail University, which is a very esports and technology focused university in Florida. So if you want to go down there and visit the campus, they have an amazing campus. They have a full movie lot on their campus, and they have shot like scenes from Mandalorian, different movies on there. They have a Unreal 3D, an Unreal like not Unreal like Unreal, but Unreal like the game developing software. They have a whole Unreal theater in there, and they do sound dubbing, and a lot of Grammy Award winners have went to that school. And a lot of Oscar winners have been to that school. So it's a very cool place to visit. Brittany's amazing. You can see her. You know, she's done esports casting. She's been a tournament moderator. Um, she's also a great player, played competitively in the college space. So, and then we have Avery Pierce. She's local. She's from Wichita and goes to Wichita State. Um, she was the NACE committee chair for creating their awards, and she's done a bunch of career and tech student nights, and then she's also a shocker. Um, Wichita State University and Wichita State Tech both have amazing esports programs. They've been around for several years. They do offer scholarships, and they have a great campus over there too, where they do a lot of esports developing and production over at Shocker Studios. And it's an amazing facility. If you haven't been over there, you know, take your kids over there. They do a lot of like clay modeling, and then just kind of working all the way through building out models in the actual games. They have a motion cap studio over there that's incredible. So there's a lot of cool things just here in Wichita that if you want your kids to kind of see what esports is about and how they can get maybe in a career in that and what that would entail, there's a lot of great resources around us locally that we're very fortunate to have, because not many areas of the country have those kinds of things accessible to them. So um, this is kind of I think this is my last slide. Um, this is kind of my brag moment. Jen actually probably knows this kid. So Zach Sewell was one of my students when I student taught at May South. Um, Very creative. I taught game design over there, and great kid. Him and I just kind of stayed in touch, having a bond. You know, we still talk. I just talked to him the other day. This was 10 years ago almost. Anyway, I was a big World of Warcraft player back in the day. I don't play so much anymore, but he got an internship at Blizzard Entertainment, and he made this. It's actually in World of Warcraft. It's in the game. You can go literally stand in that spot where he made it. And I take no credit for his ability or anything I taught him that made him do this, but it's super cool for me to see something that one of my kids, you know, I call them all my kids, all my students are my kids, but that was made by somebody from Mays, Kansas, working on a billion-dollar franchise game like World of Warcraft. So it's pretty incredible. So just kind of makes you understand what potentially could happen, through the career in esports and the opportunities that kids have. He actually now teaches at Butler County. He teaches game design and some other classes, and um, uh, serves in the Army Reserves too. So great kid. Even though he's 25 or whatever now, he's still a great kid. So that's me. Those are all my fun stuff. If you want to find me on all the LinkedIn's and the Twitters and all that, or the X's, whatever it's called now. That's me. I'm also very, like I said, I'm right here. I live in the neighborhood, so to speak. So, and Kyle always knows where to find me if he needs me. So, yeah, that's really all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions or anything. If I went too fast, sometimes I get going too fast. So, but I'll
No,
stop.
that's great.
I'll stop sharing. So,
Yeah. Thank you so much on that. Really quick, and I apologize that this wasn't in your intro, but you are a doctor. Can you share what you got your doctorate in? I know that's, but I think it's pretty cool.
I always try to skip over that part because I'm a humble person, so I don't like
Yeah.
to talk about. But so I do have a doctorate in educational leadership, which qualifies me to be a superintendent or teach higher education at some point. I got my doctorate in March of 2021, and I quit teaching in May of 2021. So uh,
Yeah.
just because an opportunity came open to do this full time, and so that's where that led. But yes,
Yeah.
tell Nate I said hello, Angie. Thank you. Just telling them I know exactly. I was like, oh, I know
Yeah.
her. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it's a lot of pain. I mean, I would say it's a lot of pain to go through your doctorate. It's not an easy process, but
Yeah, it's a
it's
commitment. So that's why I wanted to recognize that because I understand it's a
it's
commitment.
definitely a perseverance thing for sure. You just got to keep going. So, but
So,
fortunately, I got to do it on a topic I love, and it was gaming and esports. So,
yeah.
and it's a pretty new deal. And another thing that kind of worked out for me is none of my professors knew what I was talking about. So it was basically like, because I was, essentially I'm the expert. So they were like, yep, it worked for me. So
Yeah.
it all worked out. So, okay, I
Okay.
apologize. I didn't see your questions pop
No,
up
no.
until,
Yeah, let's start with the most controversial ones, of course, with Jen there. What's the difference between COD, Call of Duty, and Fortnite when they're both shooting
I
games?
feel like,
I'd love to hear your
Admiral
answer.
Akbar right now. Um, um, okay, so here's how I always explain it, Jen, and it seems to resonate with people. So, Fortnite is very cartoony. It's not like bloody or gory. So we equate it to kind of like Star Wars. Most people are, they'll take their kids to see Star Wars, right? Even though there's guns and blasters and there's no blood and nobody's, getting their head blown off or anything weird like that. So we're
Hand
caught.
chopped off.
Yeah, well, that does happen, but at least there's no blood. Right? I mean, it's caught.
Yeah.
Um, but Call of Duty is very like, gory and, I mean, it's just so, does that make one better than the other? I mean, I don't necessarily, I could see it both ways, but for schools, most of the time they're okay with Fortnite because of the cartooniness of it. Whereas Call of Duty is typically a no-go. Like I said, we won't even let kids play it on our platform because it's just too much. But
I mean, it's real life war, guns. I mean, they try to make it as
Yeah.
accurate as possible in that. Yeah.
yeah.
We always say, Fortnite's like Looney Tunes. There's violence and all that, but it's cartoonish and everyone pops back up again and keeps going. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
That's just a question I get all the time.
Yeah. No,
New
and you
parents coming into the ministry because Fortnite is very big with our students, and so
yeah, I can't believe it's still that popular. I would have never, especially for being a free game, I figured
Right.
it wouldn't last, but yeah, and they've, I never really got into it, but I know a lot of people did, and we have a lot of kids compete in it. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and you'll get that question all the time. Probably
Yeah.
every time you have something happen, you're going to get that question, and that's the best way I know how to answer it is, like
Yeah.
Star Wars versus, whatever,
Yeah.
take your pick
Yeah.
of war movie right now.
Yes. Saving Private Ryan kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I
Um,
remember when
we
COD came out the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when people registered, I asked them, "Hey, what specific questions and all that?" And we actually had several people who asked about females and gaming. Is it just a male thing, or are you seeing trends with more female gamers?
Yeah, I kind of hit on that there at the end with all the women in esports, but
Right.
that I listed there. But as far as the actual gaming side of things, I will say it's still very male dominated. Um, I think that's changing, but it's going to take time to cycle through. Like I mentioned, and I when I started my program, I had like 2 females out of 15. By the time we finished, when I left, we had 7,
Yeah.
which was about half. So it's just not translating into the high to the college space and then the professional space. I mean, I honestly can think of one professional female gamer. Scarlett is her name. She's from
Yeah.
Canada. She plays StarCraft 2 specifically. But that is one area where we struggle, and I always try to find ways to broaden that. But I don't know I don't know what the holdup is there. You know, I don't honestly don't think it's a boys are better than girls thing, because I've seen many girls beat the boys at these games. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the issue is there, if it's a societal thing or what, but I can't figure out why we can't get more women into it. So
What's interesting is whenever we have high school or middle school, youth group, and there's some free time, so we're hanging out, there's snacks or whatnot. What we notice is the majority of girls don't mind sitting, talking, and just kind of interacting at the tables, but the guys have to be doing something in the gym or on kind of video games. So it could be just the difference between guys and girls and how they interact.
now there are a lot
Um,
of women in esports tangent like roles,
Streamers and
like it's
yeah,
like social media managers, team managers,
uh,
um, you know, just I mean, almost every role besides the actual playing, a lot of women do that. There's a lot of women in those roles, but from a competitive, we're playing the game.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it just hasn't. We just aren't there. And I don't know what to do to fix it. I've been trying to fix that for 10 years.
No, yeah.
So
I understand. You mentioned this briefly talking about scholastics and how it's a type of took in some speech replacements and all that. But I got another question. What is a gaming concept? You mentioned that, like I'm making, gaming concept, but what actually is that? Like, what's this curriculum
yeah,
for? Is it for high school students? But like, what is that? Can you share a little bit about that?
yeah, sure. So that's the curriculum that we've developed. I try not to talk about that too much because I don't want it to be like salesy. So I'm not selling you anything. I just want you to know the
Yeah,
information.
that's okay.
So we have 6 courses, and what we've done is we've taken like courses that are taught during the school day. So these are all courses that kids take for credit, and we have kids in California, anywhere from California to Australia, that take these classes. I mean, it's all over the world. And they do it in a school setting. A licensed teacher teaches it. They get credit. But there's 6 courses. Gaming concepts is literally just what we call the series. So it's like algebra.
Oh, okay.
So it's gaming concepts, and then there's like middle school gaming concepts, interactive media, shoutcasting, streaming, so forth. We have one just recently we did. It's called Computer Applications. It's a full year long course, and it basically takes you through the entire Google suite of things. So you learn how to take, all these, how to do all the things in Google. Jen probably remembers this. She probably took Business Essentials, I would imagine, or yeah, the boring class that every kid hates because it's the first class they're a freshman. We did that, but we made it way more fun because we added in the esports aspect of, making a business, and then there is some gameplay in there and game design and things like that that makes it a little more interesting to kids, rather than just like, hey, let's make a PowerPoint and I'm going to make a business and I'm going to do these things, right? So it's kind of
Gotcha.
boring. So we make it a lot more fun, and they still get credit for it. It's all standards aligned and the state approved, your district approves it and everything. So it's taught. I mean, in our local area, Mage uses it, Wichita uses it, Valley, then a bunch in Kansas City, and then obviously we have LAUSD, Philadelphia. Down the list, we have a lot of districts that use it. So I mean,
okay, nice. So one of the questions we have, and someone wrote about, can you share the slides or email? We have this recorded, so we'll be able to share this too.
I can send you the presentation if you want, Kyle. You can have access.
Yeah.
No problem.
Great, and we appreciate you kind of sharing and all that. The only other question I have, unless you guys have some more, feel free to put in the chat. So this is kind of projecting, like, what do you see video games and esports world 10 years from now? With the economy, it's interesting. Video games are actually increasing in popularity. COVID has skyrocketed. But if you could project, and I'm not going to hold you to this, but what would you say this is the future of esports?
So I think in 10 years, what we're going to see is a lot more VR, AR type esports. I think we're going to start to see a lot more of, Beat Saber type competitions. I don't know if people are familiar with Beat Saber, but the goggles are on and you actually swing your lightsabers and that kind of thing.
Okay.
You're going to see a lot of that. I think AI is going to accelerate things a bazillion %. I don't even know if that's a real number, but bazillion, I use that a lot. So it's going to I think you're going to see a lot more of indie games as opposed to big, large studios. I think you're going to see a lot more smaller game studios make something popular. I do think you're starting to see a lot more diversity in the games themselves. I think that's part of the issue with females getting into gaming is they don't find characters that they identify with. So it's not as appealing to them because they don't see, a female in the game, and I think game studios are becoming a lot more aware of, so I think they're trying to be a little more inclusive and appealing to females in that regard. I know it's going to be in the Olympics. I do know I'm very confident it will be in the Olympics.
Wow.
And probably 2032 would be my estimate. They're trialing it right now. They were going to try to shoot for 28 in Los Angeles, but I don't think they're going to make it. It's going to be a summer sport. They might have it as an exhibition event in 28, but I think 2032 it'll be Olympics. It'll be at the Olympics. The U.S. is actually starting to create teams and recruit for teams for that. So that'll definitely be something that's on the horizon. To be looking for. That one I'm pretty sure will happen, so you can write that one down. And we'll
that's crazy. I didn't even think about that, but it makes sense.
Yeah. I do think you'll probably start to see a lot more televised competitions and things like that by then. Mostly now it's all streaming, but it's not really gotten mainstream. But I saw last year there was an Excel competition on TV. Like they were actually doing competitive
Microsoft
spreadsheets, and I was like, oh, okay, that's not really an esport that I would pick, but okay. So you're going to start to see stuff like that, but I think you'll start to see it more on, your streaming services and things as opposed to mostly just Twitch or YouTube, because I think that's where most of the content is now. So yeah, I mean,
that's
I
good.
think you'll probably see most colleges playing it competitively at that point. It's not, it still hasn't reached that threshold of most colleges yet. So yeah, it'll be big. It's going to be much larger than it is now. I mean, 10 years ago, it was, I think, our entire company 10 years ago, we had like 300 schools.
Yeah.
Now we have 3,000. So.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. COVID and game makers are like, hey, let's get some money out to get more computers, to get more customers, all of that. Yeah. We just have time for just a few more questions, but another one is, have you ever come across any Zwift competitions within the context of esports on that? Oh, that's a good one.
No. Okay, Angie, this is going to tell you how unathletic and unknowledgeable I am. I didn't even know what that was. I had to Google it real quick. So, but I Googled it and I know what that is. So, I don't know if they'll have those as competitions. but I do know many labs around the nation do incorporate Zwift into their labs. So the kids will ride the bikes and do the competitive racing on the bikes as kind of an exercise piece to their gaming. So I don't know. I don't foresee that because I don't foresee it becoming competitive because I'm not sure how many people we would get to participate in that in our particular high school league.
Is the equipment and stuff like that?
Equipment, and then yeah, you have to have so many people to participate to make it a competitive league, right? So
Right. Okay.
and there really has to be kind of an endpoint too. So I don't know, if they do this professionally, if there's competitions professionally for Zwift. I don't know enough about it to be honest, um, but another one I didn't mention that's been becoming real popular is GeoGuessr. We actually offer that as a competition. I don't know if you know what
Yeah,
GeoGuessr is, but
Jen, do you know what GeoGuessr is? It's fascinating. So yeah, go and share what it is.
GeoGuessr? I know
yeah,
what geocaching is.
Oh yeah, no,
Ge-
caching. Yeah.
GeoGuessr is actually very fun. Basically, you have teams or individuals, but they're competing, and basically they show you a picture of a spot anywhere on Earth, and then you have to kind of drop a pin on the map of where you think that is, and whoever gets the closest wins.
Yeah, it might be a picture of a tree and some beach, and you have to guess where it is in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's actually pretty wild and very educational. So,
People
um,
actually get it right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot.
There's
Cause they'll give you like a license plate, and there's clues if you look, and you can tell by the language of the street sign sometimes,
yeah.
and things. But I mean, it's super competitive at a high level. Like they give money for this, so.
And nowadays it's like where the sun is setting, and they have all
Mhm.
kinds of things. And so sometimes in a matter of seconds, they know exactly where it is, and they're within 100 miles,
Yeah,
which is pretty close worldwide. So
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
I,
It's pretty wild, but yeah.
I do think there's not really a lot of limits with video games compared to like sports. You have to have a stadium. You have to have these physical practice fields and football pads and things like that. And so technology is growing faster than the physical buildings on there.
I
So I
do
do think that's interesting.
I do think you'll also see a lot more mobile gaming, competitive mobile
Okay.
gaming. In India and China, that's all they do.
Uh,
All on their phone. They do, Rocket League on their phone because it's just way more accessible technology for them than
and yeah,
buying
yeah,
like labs and everything. So
yeah.
you're starting to see a lot of these games go more competitive, competitive on the mobile platforms. So
Okay.
I'm not a huge fan of that, but I mean, I think that's just where it's going. But
Yeah. Yeah. I get that different context.
yeah.
Well, we're so grateful that you gave us this hour, and I'm sure we might, if we have more questions, I might pass it on to you and email it. But
Yeah, I'm
we're
happy to come by
grateful.
too. I mean, I'm like I said,
Yeah,
like 5 minutes from there, so I can swing by anytime. So if you need me.
yeah. And so your company is Generation Esports.
Mhm.
So generationesports.com to kind of check it out. We have several families who students participate in esports through your website already before I even knew existed. So it's been a small world. So we're pretty excited that we could just reach out and you're right there. So that's it. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for attending. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yep. Bye, Angie. Bye, Donna. Bye, Jen.
Bye.
Bye.